G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's our live preview for this week. Sorry I couldn't go on last night for those that were looking forward to the normal Tuesday podcast. A bit of life got in the way, but happy to do it tonight and more Bulldogs content for everybody and more stuff to share. Welcome to those who are there waiting already. G'day, Scotty. I can't wait to see it as well, mate. Unbelievable. And we're going to talk a lot about it. There's a lot to get through, though. A lot of questions on people's minds. NRL 360 starting to get itchy fingers. And, I love the way they talk about Gus. G'day, Timmy Gray. Well deserved for the young gun Luke Smith. Perhaps cover for the back row and centres during Origin, or at least until we get some of the experienced players back from injury. Elaine says, evening, everyone. And so does Timmy. Welcome, JD. Thanks for joining again, mates. And thanks to Dave. And I hate saying this stuff, but I need to click the like button and all that sort of stuff. Really helps. All right. One day I'll stop apologising for that and I'll just say it. We're going to get into the two sides that have been named. Luke Smith definitely making his debut. And there will be a player that I believe will be 18th man. Will either be Jack Underhill or Jake Turpin, in my humble opinion. But I think Turpin really needs to get some minutes because he might be one that they utilise if they get another injury or if Kurt Mann goes to Origin, which has been spoken about. So there's lots to talk about in regards to roster, potential changes before the end of June 30. With the approach on Finau from the Dragons, edge back rower, young gun. And there's also who would the Dragons take in his spot, in his place. And I don't like going through that sort of stuff, but it's just part of what we do. We're all going to think about it. It's not disrespectful, but what I don't like is when people just start saying, get rid of this player, get rid of that player. Like, get over yourselves. Seriously. G'day, JD. It's a big game. I think the Roosters have been playing some good footy and can't take them lightly. No, definitely can't. And roster for roster that's out there, 17 for 17. I'm not undervaluing our players and what they do. I think most teams value their side more as far as player value goes. And probably under the cap, it's worth more as well, to be honest. But we will see. G'day, Lucas. Welcome. And g'day, Reg. Evening, mate. Excited for Biceps debut. It's good to have you all on so far. We'll wait for a few more people to join, but we'll just keep chatting along. And these are coming up with some good stuff to talk about already. But young Luke Smith, he was 18th man earlier in the season, and he finally gets his debut. I can tell you now, it's a very close run thing, and there's a couple of kids that they're really keen to get in there to make their debut, and the other one's being Jack Underhill, obviously. Obviously, he went off after 14 minutes on the weekend. A bit of a rib cartilage thing. I think he's got through training today, as did Jack. As did Luke. So yeah, if Jack gets to be 18th man, that way, there's probably, how many 18th men come on in a game of NRL? Probably 2 to 5%, something like that. So if he would get an opportunity if someone got, if we had a couple of head concussions or something like that, he would get his debut as well. And they would then get to, but most likelihood he gets to have a week off. No jersey flag this week. Every team's having a buy in jersey flag. So they'll try and get a few more of those flag players into the cup side if they can. And welcome Mark O'Connell back from his jet-setting holiday. Glad to have you back in the country and back on the podcast, my friend. And very much looking forward to going to the King's birthday game with yourself and hopefully some other Bulldogs fans that we'll see there. All right, so Mark's here, so we might as well get the teams up. Let's have a look at it. So much I want to talk about, and it's hard when you sort of want to talk about it all at once. Let's make that a little bit bigger for us, shall we? There we go. So side by side, they line up. Only changes for the Bulldogs is Jamin Salmon out of the side. Harry Hayes takes his place on the right edge. And Luke Smith joins the bench with Lipboy, Hotboy, Curtis Moran and Bailey Haywood. I still think there's a chance they might even start Luke Smith on that right edge. I think there's an potential for that to keep that middle rotation the way it is. But also knowing what the Bulldogs have done, playing a lot of these, Luke probably weighs about 90 to 95 kilos, maybe closer to 90. He's only probably 6 foot 6'1", something like that. I wonder if they've updated all his stuff yet. Let's have a look. Here he is. 182 centimetres, 91 kilos, 22 years of age. Not many stats there because they don't have his New South Wales Cup stats to look at. But he's definitely packed on the muscle and he's a strong boy and he's very, very fit, which means he's got a motor. And to play for the Bulldogs, that's one of the main things you've got to have is a motor. And you've got to be able to keep going. Work, 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 repeat. So, yeah, I think there is a chance that Hayes might go back to the bench. And Luke Smith may play in a rotation. Luke might come on at some point onto that right edge and Harry might have a break and then Harry might replace someone else in the front row who potentially replaces one of, like, for example, Moran might come on for Saluka Fafita and then later on Harry Hayes will replace Moran, something like that. Hotboy likely to come on for Max King if they run out as named 1 to 17. And Kurt Mann hopefully gets to do a bit more of the ball. He spent the first 25 minutes he was on last week defending and running around and chasing, and wasn't a game really, that half wasn't really conducive to a Kurt Mann influence, which can happen. But he's been basically named as he's going to be the 14 for Queensland. And I'm assuming that Harry Grant will be picked and ready for Queensland at hooker, which would mean Reid Marnie probably wouldn't be getting a go. I think they would only go for Reid if Harry Grant is out. Timmy says, I think with the young guys coming in, there's further injuries and suspensions. We have the depth. Who does Luke Smith remind you of? I think he reminds me of Luke Smith, but I don't know. I go back to probably those mid-90s players. He's sort of maybe a Darren Smith, to be honest. Shares the same name. Plays on an edge, can play centre. Darren was a very, very good player. Not big at all, but he actually started in the edge and pushed out to centre as his career went on. So, and he come in sort of as a no-name and scouted from North Queensland and brought into the Bulldog system. And I remember watching him debut in a preseason challenge semi-final against the Panthers at Wagga Wagga. And Luke does remind me a little bit of him, just a straight up and down player and someone that you sort of watch, just works hard, runs hard, tackles hard, runs support, runs his decoys, does the stuff he's supposed to do. Doesn't really take much of the fanfare, aggressive. And then, and I think he's just a player that's just going to get better and better and better as he gets gets older and older. Timmy says, good evening, Mr. Exclusive. Mark O'Connell is here. Mark says reminds him of Steve Folkes. Well, that's a big call, Mark. I'm not going to put that sort of pressure on him. And Darren Smith, that was big enough comparison, but Steve Folkes was a halfback, Mark. He was a half. He was a hook. He actually come to Canterbury as a half. And in a grand final, found touch. Put the kick in early in the game. I always find a way to argue with Mark. Always. So, yeah, could play halfback, hooker, could play in the centres, would line up at prop if they asked him to. And some of the biggest boys in the game didn't like running at Steve Folkes. One of the best defenders of all time. G'day, Steve. Welcome. I hate the Roosters, the team I hate the most. Well, there you go. And that's a great thing about the Bulldogs. We've got a rivalry with every team. And being the whipping boys, so many clubs and fans disrespected us, which you do. But kicking a dog while it's down, that dog never forgets. And we'll never trust the person who lays a boot into it. And I'll tell you what, whilst we've had a long-term rivalry with the Roosters, it's why I had in my little background, I've got a picture of Trent Robinson and Nick Politis. Because for me, Uncle Nick, who has to have everything shiny, and Trent, who is able to, he's almost, obviously he's a great coach, but he's almost like media. The way he can spin it for himself. I'd much prefer to listen to Cameron Serrato just be positive, make no excuses, barely blame anyone ever, unless it's just has to be said. But look, Trent's been at it a long time. Cameron's only had to front the media for a couple of years. So there you go. We'll see how he goes in 10 years' time. Timmy says I was going to say another Josh Jackson type of player. Yeah, could be. Could be. Got a long way to go. It's his debut. Sayed, welcome. G'day. What about the comments about Sexton on 360? We're definitely going to get to that. And look, I don't blame him, but I do think that Braith and Astor, I sort of go for him. I get really happy with Braith for a while, and then I get pissed off at him. And he's in that mode at the moment, which is good for clicks and views for Fox, which is what they're all about. And Braith and Astor, having a player play at our club who's in the halves. And whilst he's actually saying we should be signing Sexton, so there's no conflict of interest there. I just think, just let the other journos talk about it. Just control the conversation. Just say, oh, so you think he should stay? And then they say, what do you think, Braith? And Braith should be like, well, I think the Bulldogs are doing a really good job with their halves academy. All spots are up for grabs. Everyone's a chance. Toby's playing great football, but it just shows you the standards they've got in Canterbury at the moment, that a player like Toby Sexton, who seems to be killing it from a perception point of view, may not be re-signed. But they've got to link it to Galvin and DCE and all that bullshit. So we'll talk about that. Up the Dogs, still on a high from that win in Canberra. Drove down. We'll be there this week as well against the Roosters. Love it, Sayed. I wish I was there with you, mate. What a win. And we've had I keep watching highlights of all the tries. It's the last thing I watch before I go to bed. I've watched the first half more than the second half, to be honest. It still does my head in. Timmy, we have two Wilsons playing New South Wales Cup this week, Hamish and Blake. I'll tell you what, Hamish Wilson's got some really soft hands, and I haven't seen much of him. I've seen a bit of him in the lower grades, but sort of been focused in other areas, if you know what I mean. It's just another kid we get to sort of get excited about. And there's another You got the young fella coming through, Harold Matz, who's been re-signed for 3 years. A lot of them have been re-signed for 2 and 3 years to play SG ball next year and beyond. Welcome, Mondai. Just watched the short you posted with Luke calling his father on his debut. I did not realise his arms were that big. Well, he's got some nice photos going around on socials, just from training and stuff. Like, hopefully he goes well. Welcome, TM. Is this a danger game for us? Roosters pack has been solid. Collins likely wants a big game for Origin. And same with Tedesco off the bye as well. We travelled quite a bit in the 3 weeks. Well, yeah, look, there's always this come down thing. We're vulnerable against all the sides we've played. But we've come home in all of them. Finished off. And look, in the Brisbane game and the Raiders game especially, I actually feel the Raiders played better than Broncos. Look, the Broncos just executed everything perfectly, and we sort of handed it to them a bit, whereas the Raiders sort of more took it away from us, which was more worrying for me. But the way we finished over the top of them, I don't know what happened to them. But it comes down a lot to coaching. You know, there's people going around and they just make assumptions. Oh, Ciro just did magic at halftime. It was all systems go. Like, it was all systems normal. They were just focused on how do we win the game. Business as usual. Obviously, Serrato would have said, what the fuck was that? Like, what are you doing there? You know, he would have asked some questions of him. And we talked a lot about coaching and questioning and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to speaking to people for 35, you know, for the whole 10, 15 minutes and telling them what they did wrong and what they need to do, rather than getting the leaders to take ownership of it and getting everyone to take ownership of where they went wrong. And I'm sure they all knew, and they all know. This system demands a team effort. This system demands like more fitness than they've ever been. And this system demands that they're all involved. They're all concentrating. And otherwise, it can fall apart. But, you know, they're striving for excellence. And Mark, playing in the middle at 91 kilos is folks like. Yeah, well, that's if he does. Look, that's been the way things have happened. These edge back rowers, Mark, these former centres, edge back rowers, we've talked a lot about it. I've talked a lot about it. It is what they're recruiting. It is what they are playing ever since Serrato got to the club. And essentially everyone else is sort of on being let go. Outside the very best of what they've got as far as the genuine front rowers go. So, yeah, it's likely he will play some middle, but I think there is a chance that Harry might, if Harry starts on that edge, he might play some time there and get Luke in after the heat's out. But they might just say, no, Luke, you're starting. You're going to deal with the heat. You're going to deal with the pressure. But we will see. They know. They already know. We don't know. Wilson, best winger at the club. Joe Millennium, looks like 35K at a core Friday night. Can't wait. Well, I hope it's more than that, Joe. I really do. I really do hope we're able to get that. I know it's not easy, but we've got to do that. Nurturing the young fellas well. Yes, they are. Scotty. Tibby says, I hope we get another packed out stadium this Friday. I'll be amongst the crowd. I'm just glad most years are going, which is really good to see. Hey, Doggies fans, sorry I couldn't make it to the review on Monday. I was at the game on Saturday. Atmosphere is fantastic. And yes, like many others, I was depressed at halftime. Yep. But as I said to a lot of people, trust this team. Know that darkness is where we thrive. It's what we're built on. You got to know that. Well, we had 7 or 8 years of it. There were many times where we went through some dark times and came out the other end of it. So being down, you know, they knew having so many fans at that game, everyone watching them, all the, the players themselves know the culture and they know what the Bulldogs are up against. So they took it upon themselves to get it sorted. All starting with just getting an early ball to their highest paid player, who earned every cent and probably earned more money for himself as a result. Mark says Roosters are in turmoil. Well, that can drive a team to a win, Mark. Look, they might be in turmoil. I think there's a little bit of. They're also ahead of the game, though, Mark. You got to understand that. I believe there's three key factors to the Roosters at the moment. One, they're over the salary cap, and they have been, and they've been either voluntarily mentioned it or they've had questions asked. And under this new NRL regime, I don't see too many teams being, reported for their yearly breaches, whether it be 25 grand or 150 grand or 200 grand, which we used to see all the time as a headline in the paper every year under the Ian Schubert review. But since I've seen Volandis there's been basically no talk of breaches, just sombreros and people assuming stuff. But there have been some teams under some issues. I've heard a little bit of stuff, but I strongly believe they're over the cap, because you can't cull out $5 million and replace it with $2 million and meet your minimum requirement just on front loads alone. But I will say a huge element of it is, just like the Bulldogs, the Roosters' heads are in. There's expansion happening. We knew it was coming. We have to secure the players we've invested in for the last 5 years since they were 12 years old, that we've brought into our system, that are going to have, the clubs that are going to get attacked the most are the Panthers, the Roosters, and the Bulldogs now. Dragons have had a lot of success. Sharks have had quite a bit of success. Para always have good juniors. They just haven't managed them that well over a period. They've had a couple of good years. And Wests are the other one. And obviously you got Queensland, but that's a sort of, you get the kids from the high school tournaments and that sort of thing. But look, I think there's clubs that have got ahead of the game in that, and I think the Roosters are one of them. So the stuff with Dominic Young, I sort of believe that a little bit. I don't know if I believed whether Trent Robinson was spinning a lie there or not. The Brandon Smith thing, I think South's really wanted him as well, because their hooker's gone out. And Uncle Wayne's always wanted Brandon Smith. Yeah, so look, they've got a really good team, and we should get back to reviewing the preview and how it's all going to work. But I'll just get through your messages quickly and catch up. Sexton is a good 7, but I believe that's all he will be, is a good 7. He can't break the line, isn't capable of big game plays when the team is struggling. I truly believe we need a better 7. TM, I'm not going to disagree with you or fully agree. I think we saw Toby's had some moments this year where we have had some real opportunities and he's struggled. As far as just setting up the normal plays and getting us through our sets and being in the right place, the right time to do the kick, pass or run in attack and putting on our set moves and all that sort of stuff, he's done a pretty good job. I'd say a really good job. Defensively, been really impressed by him, and I think that's more important right now. If you can't defend as a 7, you can't play any NRL anymore. It's as simple as that. So there's no talk for me of any of these youngsters debuting unless they're going to make their tackles. Because the system we've got, while it's definitely everyone throwing themselves at the opposition, taking time and space away from the opposition and chasing like a pack of wild dogs, if anything happens, you still can't be protected the same way you used to be as a halfback. And that's where most of the direction is going to be going at your best player, which most teams need that to be the halfback if they're going to be the best. Yeah, and especially because they're smaller. So Toby's done an amazing job in that regard, I believe. I think many people would agree. I do think, though, I really loved the Max King try on the weekend. It was actually the plays leading up. He found Harry Hayes through the middle, running off his shoulder. Quick play the ball again, and then to bring Max King on the inside with him afterwards. That was just a really good play after the Bronson Cherry break, and put us in front. And Toby did the right things there, and he actually took control of that. That was him. You know, he wasn't worried about, is Burton calling for it, or who wants ownership of it. He'd gone out, he got early ball out to Critter, which is what Critter told him to do all at the halftime break. You could see him talking to him about it. Did it straight away. Bang, 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 bang. There you go. So Toby, I think what it comes down to is the Dogs are probably trying to position him for a 1-year extension. And obviously, he's told the club that he'd be happy to stay for a 2-year deal on $1 million over 2 years. So they all want to stay. None of them want to go. And that's a big deal for us. But that means we're going to lose some players that many fans will be disappointed to lose. And we may lose one before June 30. Dreg, hopefully we'll test Noah Wong. I can't say his name, and I'm going to have to learn it properly. Got to test him out like we did with Dom Young last year. Look, Billy Smith and this fella from Rugby Union, very, very good players, big, strong. They're back three, strong, powerful, and very good in the air. And that's something we're going to have to deal with. And Montoya and Carraz, I think speed-wise, it's pretty similar. But, yeah, they're going to be under some high ball pressure, those boys. And Tracy will also be under some pressure. And you'll expect there'll be lots of Roosters keyed up to be chasing that footy. Look, I think they're going to come out and play as they're going to be as intense as we've seen the Roosters for a while. They're coming after a bye. But Dogs also know, the good thing about the Dogs and the new structure is, and we've seen it, is that even if things get a bit beyond us, like they're having a couple of games, or even if teams have started really well, if those teams don't execute, we're just going to keep throwing the left jab, throwing the left jab, throwing the left jab until we hit him with the hook. Nothing will change. We might cop a few, might get on the ropes a bit, deal with it, and then keep going, and play for 12 rounds. That's the Bulldogs. They're fit, they're seasoned, they're tough. And they don't care who their opposition is. But from a head fuck point of view, and sorry to swear, we're getting in the minds of some teams, and the Roosters are the next one we need to do that to. And it starts this Friday night. There's some teams now that are beat. I keep saying it, and I'll keep saying it. There's teams that are beaten before they even play us at the moment. And I'm loving it. That's what you call aura. We don't have it with everyone, though. We've had to earn it the hard way. And everything they do is based on, I've said it all before. That second half was great. I was jumping out of my seat every try, put my fist up. Oh, mate, I'm sure every person in the street of everywhere that was watching it, as I said, I think the cops were being called on me. Saw them scouting the area. Someone's just been murdered. That was just in the first half. The second half, oh my God, they thought someone was having a baby. A lot of Doggies fans that day. It was very special, mate. It looked special. I shed a tear. Scotty says Sexton deserves an extension. Look, I can't disagree, Scott. But it's going to come down to what him and his manager want and what the club's willing to give. If the club doesn't want to go past 1 year, they won't. They're not going to screw their cap for anyone or their plan. They've got a plan and they're going to stick to it. If Toby leads us to a premiership, that might change things. Or if it just keeps going, they just might be forced into, you know what, he's earned that 7. He deserves that 7 on his back for another year or two. And it'll be up to this young halves academy to move him out of there. I tell you what, for me, to have Toby there for a couple of years is great depth anyway, no matter who's coming through. But if they've got a plan for others and they think that others are going to do a lot better, we need to trust them. Joe Millennium, 35K, where'd you hear that from? 35K is normal for a Friday night, to be honest, guys. So, you know, for a good game on a Friday night against the Roosters, who, you know, they all turn up to their stadium. Their crowds have got bigger in that inner city, and it's a really good stadium. And, you know, if they're playing at the Roosters stadium, I'd say it'd be a sellout. But coming over to a core, I don't know how many of them will. You'll probably get 5,000 Roosters fans there. So we'll be relying on over 30,000 Bulldogs fans to turn up on a Friday night for the 8 p.m. match. So hopefully, look, if it gets 40 to 45, that'd be an amazing turnout. And I really hope we do. So whoever your friends are, whoever your mates are, tell them to come to the footy if they're not going. Even if they're not Dogs fans, come join the Bulldogs experience. Honestly, our club plans to grow way beyond what people even understand or are talking about. That's how high their ideals are. Every cent that comes in and out of that club's being accounted for. They're setting massive goals. And everything's being done to the time, to the minute for it to happen. You know, they don't just want big, they want scary, humongous big. They want this to be the biggest club in Australia. JD says, I'll never hate a Nasty. He's one of the favourites. I don't hate him. I just have it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. I love when he come in, and I remember that really dominant game he played. It was round 1 against the Seagulls when the Dogs were basically not given much chance of doing much that year. And we had a really good season. It might have been year 2000, actually. It was 2000 or 2001. And he played really, really well. And I always loved him from then, wanted him to play Origin every year. He didn't always get picked. You know, so, but as a 360, as a media person, they're always going to get on my nerves doing their job, which is to make people either happy or sad, angry or excited. Tippy says, where is Nat Butcher from the Roosters? Let's have a look. They've got Egan, but not Nat. So Nat must be injured. I think he is injured, actually. Robert Toy's been playing well. So I want to get into this preview. Tickets are exhausted. Yay. Supposed to be raining as well. It didn't work for us against the Bronx. I guess in the rain last year, though, against the Roosters, we let them 26-0. And they didn't expect what we were coming, what we went there with. They had players sent off, and you know they nearly won in the end, which that really annoyed me. That game. I was like, why can't we just beat the Roosters 50-0? Why did it have to go down to that last bit? Scott says he came to us at our worst and has done what's asked of him. Yeah. Look, I feel for the guy if they don't pick him. I do, Scotty. But I'm just going to trust the club. Trust the club. You know, It's funny. I went and watched a few podcasts this week from 2023 from some of the other podcasters that I was tuning into all the time and just listening to their comments, how much they disliked Serraldo and wanted him sacked and all this sort of stuff, and how his defensive structures were shit and all this sort of stuff. And we had really good cattle, talking about how great Jackson Torpenay was. And it's funny what happens in a couple of years and how the tunes have changed. That's all right. We're all supporters. But I just going to back the club in what they're doing. And when you look back and see what they were doing, they've created a system that only fit players, tough players, versatile players can play, and they weeded out all the people that couldn't. And all of those players, I'll show you the New South Wales Cup team in a moment against the Manly side as well after we do the Roosters stuff, because you will see, how many of those players were there when Gus and that come to the club that are now still playing reserve grade everywhere, which is interesting. But what we will see is over time, as we continue to get better and better, because we'll have a lot of players that we let go that will be playing first grade. And that's when you know how far you've come. Because all these great players that people demanded to get their start in the NRL side barely played a game of first grade anywhere else. Going back, to the Trent Barrett years and stuff. Lucas, looking forward to seeing Luke Smith play. Always good seeing the juniors come through our system. There's a lot of good ones at the moment. Sure is. There's too many good ones. And the thing about that system, they're happy to lose a game to put someone in a position to prepare them for NRL that they're not used to give them additional skills and game skills, on the job skills. That, come last or first in a junior comp doesn't really matter. Obviously, it affects people's confidence, but the messages are the same. We're here to build NRL players and give everyone opportunities to have an NRL dream. And not everyone's going to get it. And some won't agree with that either when it turns out that way. It doesn't work out with the Dogs. It might work out somewhere else. You never know. But I'd love to see Jackie Underhill get a run. Well, Mark, he will. I said at the start of the podcast, you might have missed the start of it, but he was very, very close this week. I'm 100% knowledgeable of that. And, common sense prevailed based on the fact he has got this little issue. But, and I've just been watching the way they've doing his minutes. They've sort of consistently given him 50 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 40 minutes. And then he plays 75. Then they peel it back a bit, 35, 45, 40, 40, 50, then plays another 70. And then after that, he had to come off early. But after 14 on the weekend, in a great win in Magic Round against the Eels. Joash Papali didn't play that game either. He was 18th man. So I hope everything's all right with Joash. And he's still progressing. So, yes, Jack, in my opinion, depending on how things go, if we get another injury, I believe he'll be the next man in. If there's another injury in our forwards, I do believe he will be the next man in into our team. Or a Jake Turpin, if they need someone to play that sort of lock role. Roosters always look for a quick fix. Well, yeah, that's the whole problem with them. Yeah, so I was saying that before, Scotty. They Rawton the Cat trying to get ahead of the game and secure all their juniors, because they've got some really good ones like us that our players. And the good thing about this game, they've got some juniors in this team that were playing against players like Luke Smith and the like. So it'll be good to see them. The other part is Nick Politis has to have the shiniest thing on the market whenever it's there. And I think they've sort of got to be used to that. especially with the media hype behind it. And it's like their fan base expects it. Oh, we're going to get that player. We're going to get that player. I wish they got David Fafita last year. And I wish that Angus Crichton walked out on the club because of it. Because I think they would have fallen further behind the 8 ball, I can tell you that much. But they're going to be a tough side this week. They've got a very tough... And James Tedesco through the middle is going to be a big problem. So Hugo can kick the ball. Sand and Smith's going to be dangerous. I really want to get stuck into this review, but I do want to get through your messages because I love your contributions. Don't underestimate the Chooks. When people doubted them, they played out of their skin. I hope we flog them, but wouldn't be surprised if they make it very tough. Good to see Jack Underhill on the extended bench. Yeah, I think he'll be 18th man. I really do. Him or Turpin. Could get gritty. Roosters are having an upgrade. Don't buy in the over-the-cap stuff. It's not worth for anyone. They take everything off it. That was badly written. Yeah, look. They people know how they subsidise over the cap. Trust me, all the people in the game, they know. They just scoff at it, laugh at it. And a lot of them have benefited themselves, to be honest. So but yeah, they know. I know. The good thing is there's a few properties in Australia where some people own those properties. You know what I mean? JD, that was badly written. Michael says, Marky Mark was at my gym during the summer, bro. He's an actual athlete and he's huge, but we can stop him. Yeah, well, I think they've loaded into this guy, Mark. Nawanga with the Wase. They're definitely going to give him some extra cash because he will come into huge demand. They've taken a lot of big punts on Billy Smith, had multiple knee reconstructions and stuff like that. Just luckily for them, players like Tedesco, Tupou continue to sort of get lots of games lately. Tedesco had a lot of injuries early in his career and he's had some head knocks, played a lot of rep, but he's been quite in their side a lot over the last few years. Jack's still young, shouldn't rush him through like West did with Galvin. Yeah. Yeah, well, I've said that too, Scotty. I don't disagree with you at all. But if he's ready, he's ready. That's what it comes down to. The players are told when they're ready. There's lots of players we've looked at. Look, I used to say it about Jackson Torpenay. Like, he's earned his spot. He deserves a go. Watching him in New South Wales Cup. But yeah, I was completely wrong. There's no earn it. There's no deserve it. You're either ready or you're not ready. And when they're ready, they let you know. They tell you you're in the team. and it's great. And look, we've got to trust them. When Lipoi Hopoi was making his debut, only the people who have sort of watched him play and the utmost faithful and his family would have been confident he was going to go out there and do himself proud. Everyone else would be hoping, and many would have been like, oh, we're so under strength. Same with Harry Hayes. Same with Bailey Hayward. Bailey did have a good pre-season trial, which sort of give everyone an indication of what he could do. Unfortunately, threw that pass in a trial match, which gave Cronulla the win because he was playing hooker, long minutes at hooker, and got tired. But, there's plenty that had faith in him then. But what I'm saying is that these players, when they're getting their debut, are generally ready. Doesn't mean they can't have a bad game or have a bad experience or just, get the better of them. But what we're seeing is players that are timed to the minute and ready to add value in the role that they do and make it really difficult. We saw it with Blake Wilson coming into the side as a reserve grader. We saw it with lots of players, It's just been one after the other, which hasn't let the club or the team or the fans down. And that's so refreshing to see, which gives us so much, confidence. Joe says Sexton's defence is great, and we know defence wins your games. As long as he kicks well and organised well, we're good. Well, that's it. And sometimes that's all you need at the moment. But this system is built on a framework of hardworking people that can go for 80 minutes. But the end game is you have a spine, mainly with your number 7 and your number 1, that are exceptional, best of the best players. And that's how you win 4 and 5 premierships in a row. That's how you go from, and obviously you've got to have a good 6 the whole time. Having the 6 and 7 play the whole time together coming through with the 1 at the exact same time, even better. Right? To have someone like Isaiah Yeo develop from a winger into one of the best ball playing locks in the game, even better for them. And that's what we're going to do. So I won't be surprised if we see a really good fullback purchased and the 7 developed over time, because the 7's harder to find. And any of the best 7s in the game at the moment don't really want to go anywhere but where they are. Not to say Toby Sexton still can't develop into one of those players. Like Chad Townsend won a premiership. Just remember that. And I think Toby's better than Chad Townsend. He's given me greater feels than Chad ever did when he was younger. But well done to Chad. He won a premiership. And Toby can too. Definitely. I believe it with all my heart. But is that now or is that in about 3 or 4 years? And if they believe they've got someone with much greater potential to go further than that, they're not going to sacrifice losing them in order to win a premiership potentially, next year or the year after, which may cost them heaps of premierships and heaps of semi-final series and prelims for years later. Like it's a really hard thing to balance, and we just have to trust the club know what they're doing. But from the defence sort of things, whoever Toby's with, hopefully us, can trust that he's going to go out there and smash his second rowers down for the majority of the game and still produce a pretty solid game in attack and everything else. Rumours of a mid-season swap with Finau from the Dragons. Yes, Scotty, I want to talk about that because there's some players that we don't want to let go that are probably going to... Look, I don't think they're going to want to swap him with someone in our Jersey flag team or someone in... Seeing the way the Dragons have been, their mind's in trying to win as many games as they can. Their mind is how they, get to the semi-finals, how they win this week. It's obvious with the recruits that they've had. David Clemmer, bloody Clint Gutherson, Damien Cook. They took Kyle Black. They got Big Ray. They want to win a comp. They want to make some finals. And while they're doing that, one of their best second rowers is signed with the Bulldogs. And they've lost a few others as well. They've still got a heap of young guys that are good, but they should have been keeping him as well. No doubt. He's gone. So, yeah, I think they'll want a first grader. That's what I think. And I hope people don't get on forums and say, well, they should take Hutchison or they should take Montoya or Wilson or Turpin or anyone like that, They shouldn't take anyone. They're going to take whoever they want and whoever the Dogs sort of agree to make a deal with, as long as all parties are happy with it. I think it's going to be someone we don't really want to lose, that's playing well. Yeah. So that's just to make everyone scared and fearful. I think he'd be more of a fringe player. I don't think you're going to, someone that provides great cover. But, yeah, that's who I think they're going to go for. The more depth over potentially a young gun in return. Am I going to Vegas? Very unlikely, mate. Like, I'd love to. I'd like to actually go there and get married to me lovely missus. But I just, the way my life's worked out towards this point, just haven't been able to have the wealth and the ability to have that sort of holiday and have a proper time of it, how about I do a GoFundMe and you can all pay for me to go? How's that sound? If anyone is doing a GoFundMe so they can go to Vegas, let me know. I will throw in a few bucks. But yeah, I wish I could go. I'm hoping to win lotto. Maybe I'll have to be a gold digger and go find some rich lady. Hope my missus is watching. Read an article on Zero Tackle that Blake Wilson really wants to stay at the Dogs. And g'day, George. Welcome back again, mate. Even in his current role as a backup, feel for the bloke because he loves the club so much, but doubt he will be here. Yeah, look, he's a really good player, Blake, and I think he's gonna get a nice little payment to go elsewhere. And yeah, when you got Jethro and Jonathan coming through, Geordie Mazzoni developing well, young Will Afawalo. Some of these kids are going to end up elsewhere too, by the way, because they're not going to be able to keep them all, especially when they're on the wings and stuff. But yeah, there's so much talent there. And as I said, they've just signed up a couple more kids in the SG Ball and beyond. So it's going to be hard for Blake. But yeah. Sexton's criticism is ridiculous. He doesn't need to be the star of all the strike power either side of the ruck. He only runs when they want to compress the middles. His kicking game is top shelf. Yeah, well, it has been pretty good, mate. Most weeks I give it a consistent 8 out of 10. But he has cooked some as well. I think the thing with Toby, though, is learning to, and I think he is learning that, to be able to not carry divots and all that sort of stuff, which I think he's been pretty good at. But sometimes in the moments, you watch your spine the most because you have to, because it's where it all starts. And just watching the hybrid nature of what we do a lot, where any player can just step into that structure to set things up to go either way. One of the things about Toby is that I think teams are actually preempting that he's going to run, which is interesting. So he pulled it back for a couple of weeks, and he's been crunched so many times where he's lost the ball and actually got up ginger. Tough little bastard. But, we're not going to continue to run around with a cap that that's has everyone on the same amount of money sort of thing. They're either going to develop a 7 that's worth millions of dollars. Yeah, that's how it's going to work. I don't know if Toby fits that bill yet, but I'm not going to doubt him and say he can't reach that potential, because I actually think he was a pretty good halfback as a junior, and I think he's got I think he's a bit of a project of Serrato. I've said it before, and Serrato's not giving him anything easy at all, including and the club's not giving him an extension easily either. It's like there's reasons for that. And I'll just leave it to the club to deal with what they've got to deal with. But I'm not going to be outraged. I'm sick of the outrage of people when we do bad or make a decision. Let's be outraged. I get outraged when I see players making decisions which impact the whole team. I didn't do it enough in the days preceding, but going back and watching games like I do, and many of us do, we just flicking through and I remember that game. What happened there when I watched that? And just seeing players just run out, one out, watching Tavita and Luke Thompson in a game once. People just dropping the ball over and over again. Remember watching Chris Patolo's debut. 3 knock-ons against the Eels, 66-4 we lost. I think we scored after the siren. We're missing 9 players. Anyway, I'm going off. And as mentioned, his defence is classy. What's more than classy, Mark? It's really good. It's tough. And it's hard work. G'day, Og. Hope I've been well. Hope you have as well. DC more than likely to Roosters confirmed, but why do numerous people keep dropping hints that Dogs may be still in the mix, hence all the delay and other subtleties? Well, that's the thing. While there's a delay on our halfback, which is it's like the media love to push the buttons because they want to make sure that people buy into, they get it wrong 99 times out of 100, but when they get it right, that one time they get it right, everyone sees it because it's always in your face. And then it's like you tuned in, you're just a sucker to it because you want to hear about everything before it's happened. Everyone wants to know what happens in the end before they watch the movie, And Gus doesn't give a shit. He does what's best for the club, in his opinion, which sometimes may not be what's best, but that's human nature. I'm just going to trust they're going to get it right most of the time because I can tell you what, we've had some people who have had good intentions and got it wrong. There's also a big thing on Code about talking about Sam Ayoub and how his son's now on our recruitment and all that sort of stuff. And we've got 7 players under his management company. But what they fail to tell you is all the other players they've got at all these other clubs. Because, look, there's a couple of grubs in here who love Canterbury, but sell a little bit of shit to the media to try and stir things whenever they can out of their hatred of Gus Gould and probably because they want to get themselves back into the mix of, the club. They're probably not getting free tickets anymore, all that sort of shit. And this sort of stuff happens at a lot of clubs, right? But what they want, what they're trying to do is basically make out that Gus is putting certain people under Sam Ayoub's management company into our team so he can get a kickback. And I'm like, well, what sort of kickback can you bloody get? Like, he's on $1 million a season, Gus. He's got heaps of investments. He's made his money and he'll keep making it. What's 1% of a signing going to give him? How much money do you think they've got? You've only got a $12 million salary cap. What's he going to get? 1% of that, 120 grand. Who cares? It's not worth it. You pay it all in tax. It's all bullshit. What, he does it so he gets some free accommodation somewhere, gets a car. I don't know. Who cares? It's a millionaire. G'day, Rhett. Welcome. You never get here on time. Well, you got here tonight, mate, and I'm gas bagging for another probably 45 to 50 minutes. So we've got lots of time to chat. Sexton will be re-signed for 2 years, I reckon, to give the younger players coming through more time to develop. Yeah, well, look, that's what he basically told everyone. It made it look like there's these people coming out saying, I thought Sexton was signed for 2 years. No, he's not. he put out his manager went to bloody Peter Bedell and basically spoke to the club through Bedell that Toby's willing to take a 2-year deal for about $1 to $1.1 million over the 2 years, and made it out like they were going to negotiate it that week with Gus, which I'm sure just went down. Gus just said, "Well, we're not ready to discuss the contract yet. Has Toby found a club? That's how he operates." I've heard plenty of stories. He'll come knocking on your door. Is what I've heard. They're creating a system. They've got a plan. If he's part of that plan, which I hope he is, good times. Just like we're undefeated at home this year. I hope we're undefeated everywhere. But it's like, it builds up. I actually get more nervous the more we win now. Isn't that funny? There used to be no pressure before. It used to be, I used to keep a tough face, but if we can keep him to 3 tries, we might be able to beat him by a point. Oh, fella Dave, welcome. I love your name, mate. Really like that second half with Sexton running things on one side, Hayward on the other. Those two don't need to be flush game winners when they're feeding Crichton, Kicks, Cherry, Preston, etc. all day. And a whole bunch of new ones coming through. Look, I agree. Hayward was playing lock, and him and Sexton and Burton were actually doing quite a bit of interchanging both sides of the field, actually. You go watch. Sometimes it was Hayward was first receiver. Sometimes it was Sexton. It was rarely Burton, though. And he was playing lock. He wasn't. But, it's this hybrid thing they've done. Like Reed Marnie can sometimes steps into that. Hayward or someone else will get into dummy half, and Marnie will get the ball and engage the line, pass out the back. And so many of them can do it. From Salmon to Hayward to Moran, Curran can do it. Heaps of them. Curtis Moran, Kurt Mann. I said them all. Starting to lose my mind. I met Brafe once at Coogee Hotel one night at a Bucks party. Ended up playing pool with Ogre and the General. Oh, that would have been a good night, mate. Good blokes, those two as well. Yeah, I saw them all at. I was actually at a work party, and they were at the place next door after they just played that night against the Broncos. I think they lost too. Brad Moran was there, Luke Patton, a few others. No, I can't get there, Timmy. I answered that before, sorry. In depth. Really like that second half section. Oh, yep. Timmy, do you think Burton will be the 18th man for New South Wales again, or do you think Paps will be filling that role? Oh, I can't see him do it. I think Burton's had a bit of a stop-start year this year. I like the fact that after he hurt his shoulder, not his head, which I thought it was. Made a few mistakes, didn't carry his divots, and did some really good stuff in that second half as well. Imperative to our win. And I think he may miss out this year. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. I think he's got more versatility than Pappenhausen, to be honest. He's the professional 18th man. Gratitude, welcome. Dogs defence style, force errors from Roosters and unsettle them. Scotty says, Victor the inflictor for the sin bin. So we're getting your tips on the other game's going to go. Agree with Gratitude. Roosters won't cope with our defensive structure. Well, they've got to implement it. And I'm sure the Roosters have got some tricks up their sleeve for what they want to do. It's good to see another famous name coming up through the ranks of our club, Jed Reardon. Jed Reardon and Bud Smith have been played New South Wales Cup last week. And both did a really good job. Jed had a magnificent game, to be honest. It's going to be a crack at the battle of the 13s. Tay Cochran's another one. Yeah, good Indigenous kid. Love him. We'll see how he develops. I think they want to have more than Tay there. I think they're hoping to get. We might have. Look, I think they might be buying a fullback at some point. Just saying. And in our system, the way our system works, our fullbacks and our 1 and our 7, based on our defensive structure, can exist and do their role and do it really, really well. But I ask you, if your team's restricting the defense to, the Dogs are restricting the team's meters from their first play of the ball to their kick more than any other side, and they've been doing it for 2 years. When we're doing that in games, our fullbacks catching the ball in the full majority of the time, same with our wingers and whatever else, and they're making kick return meters and they're on the front foot. And every time you do that, that reduces the amount of distance your forwards are going to run back from the defensive line to get onside, which fills them up with more energy and gets them more run meters as well, because they get that ball in that better part of the field. But the question I ask, if your team's doing that defensively across the field, you could have pretty much any fullback in the competition. They're going to get really good stats, is what I'm saying. What I want from the fullback is, obviously, Connor Tracy's doing a magnificent job, and he's literally one of our best top 5 players this season, because his positional play is good. He puts his body on the line. He does everything right, and he's rather safe as well. But if you got a fullback who can save a lot of tries and make a lot of breaks, that's the next level up when they start doing that sort of stuff. And Tracy's sort of not a young fullback. Like, he's just continually got better and better and found a home there with the Dogs, and he's doing a really good job. And I think he's very well liked in our club. But I would not be surprised if over the next couple of years we see someone either purchased that's got a really good pedigree and coming through and going to be one to compete with Tay, as well as developing some from within our system, or someone who's an established star that will come on big money. You've heard it here. All right. Kurt Mann might be the 18th man for Queensland. Well, they're saying he's in the running to be in the 14. And the way it stands, if Harry Grant's out, Marnie will replace Grant, I'm 100% sure, because Ben Hunt won't be there. And Mann's a player that you could definitely put at number 14. Now, even if Harry Grant plays, Kurt Mann might be the one they put at 14, because you look at their options. Still not sure why Elias is still out of the side, and they have lost their last 2 games without Elias. Oh, it's something to do with nepotism, mate. They might want Moran. I think they will, mate. If I was the Dragons and I want to win games now, and I want a player that adds depth and plays with heart, I'd be targeting. I'd be saying, give me Kurt Moran, a Bulldog, through and through. That's who I'd be targeting if I was putting my Dragons cap on. But look, I'd also be saying, well, give me, Sasai Alatini, or give me, AJ, give me one of those good young fellas coming through. Give me Damon Marshall. He's injured at the moment. Give me one of these good youngsters that you've got that you believe are going to be there. Give me Jack Todd. Give me Jack Underhill. If I was the Dragons, I'd be asking for that, or I'd keep him there. I wouldn't be giving the Dogs a leg up. But Scotty, I'm sad that I think if it was going to come down to it, I think it might be, because Moran's sort of fallen behind the pecking order. But I want to talk about Curtis Moran again in a minute. Curtis Moran's performance on the weekend actually started it when him and Hayward come on. Things started to get better. We could see that last try, I know, before half time, but his charges for every minute he was on the field were imperative. His combinations in the tackle and in the defence were first class. And then they brought Lipoi Hopoi on as well, and his ability to get to the ground quickly and play the ball and get a roll on through the middle was instrumental as well, off the back of a Curtis Moran run half the time. Those two played immensely well, and I really hope they continue that. They're going to need to continue that against the Roosters if we're going to win. Congratulations to Phil Gould for 50 years in the game. Yes, well said, Mark. Gutsy player. Wilson to Perth. Looks, if I was the Bears, I'd be buying him too. Jason Taylor can end up in Perth too as an assistant attacking coach. He could. I think he's come out publicly and said he didn't want to be a full-time coach. But I think he's happy at the Bulldogs. I will say that. JD let him know. Yeah. Do you think Hayward could be our long-term 6 after Burton? No. I think Hayward will be one of our long-term players, and I think he'll be our hooker. I think he'll be our long-term hooker, Mike. That's what I think will happen. And his development in his passing game off the deck, the fact he's doing it everywhere, the fact he can kick, the fact that he's got the line speed for the tackle, hooker is where he will be, and I think he will represent from that position in the future. And he's getting there quicker than I thought. And I think we might even see him start there in a few games this year. And I'm sort of hoping Marnie gets his opportunity so we can see it. We might not win and stuff like that. We might have too many players out. But it's a really good development opportunity. I think Cassius Tia is one we need to keep. And I expect he will be... We'll be seeing a lot more of Tia before we see Woods. But Woods has developed his body quite a bit, and he's only going to do that more and more next year. I think you'll see Mitchell play a lot of cup next year with a debut in first grade in 2026 at some point. I think we might see Cassius before then. One more I was thinking about, says Og Fanafu Seve, one of the younger beasts that was coming for our system, and then he left with his brother to the Roosters. What happened? Didn't want to play anymore. Gave up for whatever reason. They had a lot of issues with them both. I heard very out of favour with the coach below. The work ethic, just not all eyes on the footy. And look, and I was talking a lot about this the other day. These big fellas that are so talented have grown up playing their 20 minutes of skittling players in attack and defence, offloading at will, running through, scoring 50-metre tries, doing all the sort of stuff from the time they were little to the time that they reach these junior games where they also dominate. And by the time they're at that, they're sort of, halfway through, they've done their stint, they walk off looking for their break to be replaced and interchanged. And in a game where we had unlimited interchanges and stuff, that was the future. But now, our club's building a club and a system around players with the mindset to play 80 minutes. And it's all Phil Gould. Serrato's defensive system demands all of that as well. But as Ivan Cleary said, Ivan knows that the way the Panthers play, that Ivan's coaching methods are a direct result of everything you learn off Phil Gould. Ivan said that. And Serrato, exactly the same. People talk about Phil, he's this and he's that. But he's the pioneer of it all, and we should trust in the Gus. And yeah, the Seves, we let them go. Roosters got a dud deal, and the rest is history. I think the Thompson signing put him off, or fact his brother wasn't being re-signed. I was a massive fan of his work. Him and his Pacifica Tonga from Dragons were solid in the New South Wales under 19. He played really well in that game. Yeah, he did. Actually, I thought Mitch Woods was probably out. He did some good things in that game. But yeah, it was more the other kids I was impressed with. The halves partner of Mitch Woods, I felt, had a really good game in that game, and Seve was really special. He had a lot of talent. Like, he's a big boy. He's about 120 kilos too, man. Like, he's huge. But they want a prop who can play 45 minutes, and I think it was too hard. And I think there was a lot of stuff going on as well, maybe at home or whatever. He was struggling. I don't pretend to know the full story, but I know his mind wasn't on football the way they needed it. And when that's the case, you can't put club first, team second, individual third. G'day, D. Nat Butcher's at the abattoir. Good to see you, mate. Mike Burton is very young. He is very young. That's the thing. He's the same age as Critter. They all came through together. Critter and Birdo and Spencer Lenu. Perth for PNG will throw the checkbook at Hayward. Oh, I don't think they'll get a chance to, Scotty. I think you'll find Bailey will get another extension, and he'll be extended for a nice amount of money, and he won't want to go anywhere. I think you'll find that Reid Marnie will be gone at the end of 26, if not before, because they know that they want to keep the young guys because of the expansion to shore up the future. Not just keep Reid, because he would definitely be the best option to keep for another couple of years after that. I 100% believe that in my heart because of the way he plays. He's one of the top three or four hookers every day of the week in his heart and his attitude to defence. Although his instinct takes over sometimes and he makes the wrong call. But, yeah, over a season, he's going to win you a lot more games than lose you games. But I think because of this expansion and knowing it's coming, they can't commit to players like Reid, who's, I believe, is worth 800 or 900 a season, in my opinion. I can't see him giving him that sort of money and therefore insulting him with, we can keep you for 400 grand because we want to pay Bailey Hayward 600 now to keep him, make sure he stays and be a Bulldog for life. I really think they're looking at Bailey Hayward as a Bulldog for life, guys. Just seeing that. Hayward can play at 9 if Marnie plays for Queensland, 100%. Interested to see a lineup when Origin comes around. Well, yeah, we get a few players back, hopefully. Curran and Preston, that'll be nice. And then Tupanua. David Marshall's still with us or not? He's had big raps. He's with us. I actually asked about him a couple of weeks ago. I was told he had a bad hamstring injury from pre-season. And it's been work to get it cranking. Critter Marnie and Kerman play Origin. We could have to do a lot of reshuffling. Yeah, and I'm excited by it. I think Cassius has a big chance of playing if that's the case. I think obviously you got players like Jonathan Sewer and maybe even a Jethro Rinikama. Defensively, they've still got a lot of work to do, but they've got all the game from the card out to getting them early ball and getting them around teams to finishing, stepping left and right, and turning small chances into tries. They're very good kids. We're in great hands. Jethro is not playing this week. I'm not sure if he's injured or if they're just giving him a rest. But Blake Wilson's name for the wing. Who do you have as the back five for New South Wales? I think Braden Best might miss out. He's definitely missing out, brother. Hope so, mate. Hayward is a special player. All right. I'm just going to turn the fan up a bit, guys. I'm starting to sweat. All my hot air from talking's heating the room up too much. let's get stuck into the preview. So I'm going to talk for a bit, guys. So, look, how's this game going to be won? Well, people are going to expect to see a lot of early ball to Critter and do what we did in the second half against the Raiders. Accor Stadium, 8 p.m. on a Friday night in sticky conditions, completely different game, and a game we're accustomed to. Let's be honest, we've played plenty of these games. We played the Roosters in the wet twice last year, first at Accor where we beat them, then they beat us at Gosford in really heavy rain where, that was a good game early. Skelton smashed their young centre. He also got the intercept. That's where we saw Satili Tupanua's effort to try and chase Skelton down. We nearly scored some good tries in that match. I don't think we kicked the goals. Yeah, and they got us. Jared Hargraves had a pretty special game. But look, there's a lot of effort players in this Roosters side, and that's what I'm starting to see. That teams are picking. They're picking sides which are more mobile and more conducive to longer periods, and it's all because of the Gus Gould and Cameron Serrato's strategy, and that's what it is. As far as their back five go, a lot of meters in it, a lot of effort plays in it. Billy Smith is a special player. He just had no luck with injury. Tupou is very consistent, and we know what Tedesco can do. And the new guy, they got him there for a reason. Toya's been pretty special with the ball, had his moments in defence, and he's one I reckon we can definitely exploit. I do think we can exploit Billy Smith as well, but he'll be looking forward to the challenge. The challenge of the centres here, look, you'd give it to Cherry and Crichton every day of the week, but, the players are sorted out from what that's concerned. Nothing changes for us as far as the strategy. We'll be looking to kick deep. We've got the ability to do that. Savala's someone who can do that as well, and that's why his kicks have been pretty spot on. His kicks have been deep, and they'll be looking to give him lots of space. And I think what you'll find is the Roosters, I say this in a lot of previews, and we saw it with the Raiders. They'll look to run that ball, knowing that our edges are going to chase hard to shut down their halfback and really put him under pressure. He's a big boy too, Hugo. He's not small. And I think that's where they'll try and get us, where they're going to look to attack as much as they can. The weather may bring that, bring them closer together in that regard. Obviously, when the rain comes, you play a more compact game, which will suit both sides, to be honest. But look, they've had some really good contributors. Connor Watson at hooker's had a really good season. I still don't think he is a genuine ultimate hooker. But he's definitely an energy player, and he throws a good ball and he tries his heart out and was deserved. The New South Wales Blues don't win the second match. Or it was the third match, I can't remember, where he threw that ball to get it going and they got on the outside, and I think Luai scored. Leniu as a starter, he's going to try and go out there and enforce, but I'm happy for our guys to take on that front row. Spencer Leniu, how many minutes are you going to get out of him? Let's have a look. For the Roosters this season, 3 wins, 4 losses in the 7 games he's played. He's tackling at 90%, which is a career worst for him. But they've been giving up more possession. They've had some really poor games. He's only averaging 86 metres, 108 kick return metres. So he's running it off the back fence. But, it all comes down to the amount of minutes he's playing. And I wish they'd show that in the summaries, because they don't. But he's a player, had an 83% win record at the Panthers. He's gone to the Roosters and it's down to 62. Tackle efficiency was quite good last year, but this year it is down. Couple of offloads in his game. he's an effort player. I really like Spencer Leniu, but I think he's a bench player. I think he's where he's best suited. And they've got him started. They're trying to develop him into that. I think that's where he wants to play. 110 kilos at about 6'1" or 6'2" or 6 foot, is it? I'm not sure. Yeah, good player. Nafahu White's been more of the player playing longer minutes, but look, comparing it to the stats of the Bulldogs front row, King's the best credential prop for 2025 in this match. Let's look at his stats for this year. His post-contact from the amount of games he's played is at an all-time high. He's improved in every area, and that's from a team that's playing well. The individuals always do better as well. Had some good offloads. The offloading of the Bulldogs I've been really impressed with all the way down to the juniors. They're getting really good at that little basketball over the back offload. It's something built into the club. 96% tackle efficiency, 148 metres. And just look at it as a player to go from his Bulldogs career, 102, 107, 119, 148. What a great player is Max King. Very, very happy. And 2 tries for the Bulldogs this season after not getting any for so long since he was at the club. Let's have a look at Nafahu White and see how he compares for this season. He's someone that they've put a lot of time into. He's averaging 143 metres, so he's having a really good year as well and playing lots of minutes. So he's the Max King of the team, whereas Spencer's more like will play similar minutes to Spencer will get a second go at him as well. So he's trying to develop into that seasoned tough middle that can play longer minutes. And Daniel, let's have a look how he's been going in recent weeks. Played 6 games for the Bulldogs this year for 6 wins. He's absolutely loving it. Making some tackle breaks. 4 from 135, 4 tackle breaks, 135 post contact. Tackling percentage a bit down, but it all comes down to the line speed he's playing with. And this is the thing, like they're playing with a lot more speed through the middle, which players step around them. There's that swarming defence, and this is what I talk about. But our missed tackles as a team is much better this season than previously, and you'd expect that. Average running metres of 63, but he has had some games where he didn't play many minutes. He's only averaging about, I think, 18 or 19 minutes per game. Doing his job, making his tackles, and some important tackles too, like some really strong contact and being that enforcer in the middle. Overall, it's a great contest. And look, they've got Lindsay Collins coming back from injury, and he's a player who can play long minutes, has always done so. Usually comes on for two efforts. You can see this year, minutes played 46, 37, 32. How come I didn't see that on Saluka Fafita? Let me go back to that. Oh, there we go. Minutes played. So he's played 23, 17, 16, 35 against the Knights, where he actually got a second stint, 32 against the Titans, and only 18 last week in that tough loss. It's funny, like the fact we walk away with that game with only making 6 interchanges was so funny after making 100 more tackles in the first half. So, look, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, guys. We're going to put the balls into the corners, put them high, smash them, hopefully win that field battle. Try to make no mistakes. The Roosters are going to try and get us into as many errors as they can. If our players hold their nerve and do the system the way they've been doing it all year, we put the Roosters under a fair bit of pressure and force them to crack first. And that's how we go about it. And force them to play football to get out of there in conditions that may not be conducive for it. So we'll see how that goes. I want the Dogs to be patient and to build their game the way they have and then unleash when they need to. But, at a core, if they play sideline to sideline too much, you tire yourself out. It's like you're running on quicksand sometimes. It's how I sort of watch Origin games at a core. I always suit the Blues. It's usually a slower contest. Yes, but look, Kurt Mann starting. I don't think we're as effective with Kurt starting the game. But if we're getting our possession on, he comes into his own, right? So it all depends. We can rely on him to defend his ass off and all that sort of stuff. Harry Hayes will be a target for the Roosters. He hasn't played much on the edge as far as game time for quite a while. So they'll be looking to exploit him big time. And and being there with our right edge, which has been vulnerable in defence. Although the Raiders pulled our left edge apart last week, mainly attacking Burton and Cherry, who was slow to assignment a couple of times. Also doing their work on Kickow and bringing him infield and then taking him out, which they're all aware of. What we'll see is Harry come under a lot of pressure, and I expect him to meet the challenge head on. I do think we'll see Hayward get as long minutes again, and there's a chance they might even start Bailey to give that impact for Kurt off the bench. And they've got the option, if they've got things under control and they want to do things in a certain way, they can rest Marnie as well. So it all comes down to how they're executing the plan. Curtis Moran, if everything stays the way it is, he comes on for Saluka Fafita and to keep the energy going. Look, Lindsay Collins, he's a hard toiler. We'll get numbers in on him. Make sure he doesn't do any offloads. This young Blake Steep's a real goer. You can't, go to sleep on him. Egan Butcher, very consistent. And we know about Zach Docker-Clay. Won't be at the Roosters next year, but he's done a really good job in that utility role. Can play hooker, play small lock. Victor Radley, his engagement gives space to his halves to give Teddy into open space. And some young, really good players in CL Wong. And obviously we know about Angus Crichton. We want to make Angus have a bad day, and that's another key as well. Get him totally under the pump. And if he's switched on, we know how damaging he can be. So, look, I expect Lipboy to go on for Max King after 25 minutes. And I'm not sure if they bring Luke Smith onto that edge, give Harry a break, and then bring Harry on to replace Curtis or Lipboy in the second half. But lots of options for the team. It's not as easy to predict as it usually is when things are going well, which has been quite often this season. They've just had a plan for all seasons and got it done. But expect Jack Underhill or Jake Turpin to be there. But look, I'm tipping the Dogs can get this one. I think it'll be a close game. I think we'll win by 26 points to 8. There you go. I think it'll be closer than that and we'll pull away at the end. That's what I do believe. I think we've got an 80-minute side that believes they can go the distance, and even more so believes that now. But they still have to go out there and earn everything they've got. Nothing changes for this Bulldogs team. The moment they think the moment it gets in their heads, we'll get our pants pulled down, because our system doesn't allow for a lack in concentration. It doesn't. They've got the system to get themselves back into games or to rally and chase. All the right stuff's there. But if they go out there and switch off, as we've seen, if teams execute and we're down a bit, all of a sudden we're under the pump. And we don't want to be at a core on a Friday night with a big Bulldogs crowd down by any points. Look, the thing that I haven't said about a core, it has become a fortress. Hardly anyone's been able to beat us there in 18 months to 2 years. So, yeah, the Dogs are confident. They know everything comes off hard work. They know they've got to go out there and annihilate this Roosters side and put doubt in their minds. And I think they can do it. And I'm going to back them in to do it. Let's see what you've been saying. Tuala is another option during Origin. Yeah, we'll see what Tuala does. I think they'll want to give him some runs in New South Wales Cup. But apparently he was training the house down before he went down injured. G'day, Lakeside. Welcome. I used to watch Hayward's grandfather at Henson a lot back in the day. He's inherited his ability. Oh, it's good to hear that, mate. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, well, I just can't wait to see him progress further, man. Like, sitting there, I was pretty critical of him in the halves a couple of years ago. And then I watched him come through that next pre-season. They train with the boys and just seeing his toughness in defence and the progression of his defence, progression of everything in his game. And the fact that, he's done most of his plaudits have come through his defence and his passing game and getting deeper and deeper into the line. He's hardly run the ball is a thing which isn't talked about. And that's something that I want to see develop and see more of. He's been your link player. A lot of these locks that play and have that passing ability spend a lot of their time taking hit-ups as well and denting the line, whereas Hayward isn't doing that. So to me, he's set up to be a really good hooker and someone who I think will be able to run from dummy half when the need arises because he has got a bit of speed and he's obviously a half and can read the game really well. And watching him as a half, attack was never a problem. Can throw a good ball, can pick the numbers apart, can do all of that. It was just under fatigue, he'd start throwing an arm out and whatever else. But his progression has been amazing. Mike, I really hope we're keeping defending well. Went from almost 10 points a game to 15 points a game in a few weeks. Yeah, well, it's always going to, and we'll have periods where it's good and periods where it's not as good. I'm sure, the coach will be looking for a big defensive effort this week. But I also look at some of those games and go, we didn't throw a lot. Looking at the games where it kept teams to close to 0 or under 10, we didn't really annihilate them with attack. We didn't use that early stuff to Crichton to win games against good opposition. We did our run of the mill stuff and got the points. There was teams that were under sufferance from losing players. We just kept tiring them out, making their forwards tired, playing pretty much, and then started running through the middle in the second half and putting the space in the game. Para game, we just tackled for the whole second half to see if we could do it. I swear. Like, it's funny. It's funny. It's a funny game, rugby league, as they say. We used to watch Hayward's Grant. Yep. A couple of them come through twice. Yeah, exactly. The origin factor plays a big part in it at this time of year. And hopefully, talk of our players playing origin, that does worry me. Because players like Teddy and Collins are likely to be picked. Well, Teddy's probably, he may not. I don't know. I guess there's a bit more, and Collins may not either with Surly back, and couple of others. Crichton and Crows especially. Critter's pretty much locked in. Yeah, I think they have to lock Critter in. If they go Turbo, if Daly goes out there and picks Turbo and Latrell in the centres, Toho on one wing and Lomax on the other, like, you've got 4 players that have just come back from injury or are, much more likely to get injured than a lot of other players that they play. So I think something's going wrong if that happens. If that's the case, I'm putting Burton on the bench. If those 4 are there, 100%. For me, I think it'll be Latrell and Crichton. They'll see what's going on with Lomax with his injury. But if they're playing Toto, which I'd be playing Carraz on the other side for sure. And I think they'll try and exploit Carraz too. Like, he's still young, great player, but he's still got things he's got to improve on. His offloads are insane. You're 100% correct. He's done it a couple of bad times too and put us under pressure in games. The one the other day where they said that he dropped the ball, he didn't. He regathered before and no one touched it. And he was facing the other way. He sort of just dropped a little bit like a regrip. That went the Raiders' way. That didn't help us. Kraz for any time try scorer, gamble responsibly. Kicko anytime try scorer, gamble responsibly. There we go. Attacking left and right edge. A lot of people think it'll be Toto and Lomax for Origin, but I do think Kraz has genuine chance. Well, as I said, both have come back from injuries. I wouldn't be risking it. No way. I'd be going Jacob Kraz, and I think it's better for New South Wales if they do. Because, they lose the game. Maybe they bring Lomax in. That's all right. He gets a taste. Don't think it'll damage his confidence one bit. But I know, maybe they might not utilise him. I think he's ready. It's not whether he's earned it or deserves it. He's ready for Origin, in my opinion, and that's all you can be. You can be ready for Origin, and if there's other players that they want to pick ahead of you, there's nothing you can do about it. JD, White is an awesome player. Really been enjoying watching. He's going to be tough to handle. Yeah, well, they knew what they had there, and they've invested in him and let Terrell May go. Mike says Dogs to win 30-12. White has been a lot of stuff's coming through twice. I trust the boys will, however. Yep, I'll handle Nafahu White. Let's have a snapshot of the team. Stats. 49 played in the NRL era since 1998. The Dogs 23, the Roosters 26. We'll be looking to balance that up. They shared the chocolates last year. Roosters scoring 26 points in both matches. Form guide, we've won 4 of our last 5 and 8 of our last 9. While the Roosters have won 3 of their last 5. They lost to the Rabbitohs in a game that they dominated and should not have lost. They beat the Broncos in a really good performance, got flogged by the Panthers at Magic Round, in turn flogged the Dragons, and a big win over the Dolphins last week. Their form is strong. But they've only won 4 games. 204 scored for the Roosters, 246 against. And looking at the games where they've been winning, so in the last 5 matches, they conceded 20, 16, 40, 18, and 26. We've conceded 0, 0, 42, 18, and 20. So, look, that defence has evened up a bit in what's been conceded in the last 3 weeks. They're completing low, the Roosters, which means they've got a lot of upside if they hold the ball. Tackle efficiency is generally good. average play the ball speed has just continued to get worse as the season's gone on, and teams have been allowed to lay all over us, which has been criminal in my opinion. And we've won 54% of matches at this stadium, which has continually improved over the last 18 months, having won most of our games. And in the NRL era, we're about 59 games behind the Roosters in wins. And I expect that to change over the next 5 years and get much closer. So there you go. Bulldogs and Roosters. The referee will be Ashley Klein, the man who loves to. You got Ziggy Adamaski on one and Phil Henderson, the other touch judge. Chris Butler, the senior review official. Chris sees some weird shit. Ashley, I find he's completely inconsistent week to week in how he interprets things. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. We've been doing a lot of chats. Let's have a quick look at the New South Wales Cup while we're here. We'll get the New South Wales Cup team up. Who have won 3 of their last 4. Actually won 4 of their last 5. And they play this Manly side. Have a look at the Bulldogs in this team they're playing. Brandon Wakeham, Chris Bartolo, Aaron Shoup, and Dean Madison all played for the Bulldogs in our reserves, and 3 of those players actually played first grade in Bartolo, Shoup, and Brandon Wakeham. Manly, how are they going? Are they going all right? Let's have a look where they are on the ladder. They're usually down the bottom. They've had 3 wins, 6 losses. Dogs sitting 6th. We really need to start putting more games together. We've won 4 of our last 5, which is a good start. But it's hard because they do change a lot of players around. And that's not the end goal. What's going on here? So let's look at this team list again. Tay Crocker at fullback, Blake Wilson, Danny Gabriel, who's returned from injury, Hamish Wilson, who played well last week, not even a photo of him. Jonathan Suam, who's back out on the wing. He had been playing a lot in the centres. I think Danny actually came off the bench last week. I think he came on for the HIA rule. Drew Hutchison and Cassius Tia. Young Joey O'Neill got a head knock after 2 minutes last week, so he'd be out due to concussion protocols. Larry Morgatutia. He's and thanks to Elaine, who sent me a message on how to pronounce his name. I really appreciate that. I'm still not very good at it. I need more practice. Ruben Moyle, I think Turpin might come back and start, and Ruben will come off the bench and they'll drop one of the young guys. Zion Mau, who's been starting, and Larry, was playing a lot of Ron Massey Cup. And Larry sort of was coming on, starting off the bench. So they've got 2 big fellas going against Matthew Lodge and Chris Bartolo. And I'm not sure if Zydas Morgatutia is the brother or a relative of Larry. I have no idea. Logan Spinks, who scored a try in his hometown of Tamworth last week, and he's on our development list. And another one from the Greater Northern Tigers, like Luke Smith. I think we had Eli Clark, and there's some others that come through that pathway. And Lewis Grossami's been doing a great job on that edge. And Taniela Odokolo from the Warriors, I've really loved his work in the middle. So this is going to be a good game. You can see other teams, putting Aaron Shoup into the edge. Sam Rani playing on the edge for the Eels. You can see what they're doing, can't you? In plain sight. And the Dogs actually gave Sam Moroney a few games on the edge in reserve grade for the Bulldogs last year. I'm sure he was 100% happy about it. But he tried hard. It would have been tough, but it's made him a more versatile player. He's quite tall. He's quite sizable. And he played really well for the Eels last week in that position, to be honest. And you can see this is the way the game's going. As it gets faster, these centres turns edge back rowers, and sometimes, in the Bulldogs' case, turn middles, form the nucleus of our framework. 80-minute players. Patrick Young also on the development list. AJ Jones also on, or AK Jones also on the development list, or will be. Bud Smith and Jed Reardon. Chase Patterson, the extended bench player. With Jed had a great game last week. Bud was pretty good too. And this young fella, Gus, is named as someone to really watch for the Bulldogs. He's only had limited minutes though, and he's played on some edges. We've lost all 3 games he's played this year in New South Wales Cup. But we won both games he played last year. So there you go. One to keep an eye on. Blake Taff, Underhill, Turpin, Rennie Karma and O'Neill out of the side for this week. So that will be a good contest. Obviously, a lot of players with first grade experience in the Manly side. Vaiga, Wakeham, Jake Arthur, Matthew Lodge, Patolo, Shoop have all played quite a bit of first grade, and Dean Madison debuted with the Seagulls in first grade. Ryan Madison's older brother. So there you go. Mike. We've beaten every team who's conceded 50. Aka can't win the comp. Eels and Titans. There you go. And the Roosters are next. And those games have been, while we've dominated big parts of those games, they haven't all gone our way. So we might get something similar. But hopefully our big stats man, Michael, can predict another very good stat to turn into reality. Oh, good. Here I am. Have to take off. Have a good night. Thanks, JD, for joining. I'm going to take off as well, guys. I'll just read out the final comments. Scotty, he says, Teddy. Oh, this is Scotty's New South Wales team. Teddy, To'o, Mitchell, Crichton, Carraz, Mitchell Moses, Nathan Cleary. I'd probably go with that side. I'd have Dylan Edwards at fullback, mate, because of his work with Nathan Cleary. I just think he's more... Teddy just stifles the attack too much in that, I find, and just takes you to different parts of the field. He's just such a heads-up player. He's a great player, don't get me wrong. And when we won that series after he scored the winning try, like, I love Teddy, don't get me wrong. Good player. Wish he didn't leave the Tigers, because I think the comp would have been better if he stayed there. Payne Huss. Cotter at 9. I'm not sure that's right. Cotter plays for Queensland. I think you might have meant what's his bloody name? That the fella going to the Roosters, who was our hooker last year. That's who I'd be picking. Just forgotten his name. What's the name of the bloody hooker from the Cowboys? Reece Robson. I think that's who you meant, Scotty. Mitch Barnett, Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, Isaiah Yeo, Connor Watson, Jake Turbo, Spencer Lenu, Hudson Young, and 18th man Tyrone May. Yeah, I pretty much agree with majority of that, mate. Although I'm picking... I would have had Jacob Preston in there if he was available, but he's not. Yes, they're brothers. Oh, thanks, Elaine. They both played for the Doggies. Oh, did they? I didn't know that. Well, Larry's doing a good job and he's getting more minutes. He's built in the old style, and he's played all right. He's had some good hit-ups. They've nearly got a try. I think he actually got one in the end. G'day, Dave. Break the fence. And that name come from our boys not letting them through the front, letting them through the fence, the defensive wall. When we last conceded 66 points, we beat the Rabbitohs the following week. Are the Tigers good enough? Whoa. There you go. That's a good question. Teddy Swan Song. Yeah, I forgot his name. Yeah, no dramas. Oh, I forgot it as well, obviously, but I've just remembered Reece Robson. I like his defence and Connor Watson to give him a break after he's done all his work. I'm happy with that. So that's it, people. So the Toby Sexton thing, we talked about that. Bulldogs are going to win on Friday. They're going to have to earn every point they get. We talked about players that might be done in the swap. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a fullback or a half. I don't think we're going to go buy a half. I think we're developing one or keeping the one we've got. But I do think we might either get a couple more young fullbacks into our system that have got a lot of credentials, or they've looked at them and think they're going to do really well and create that sort of same amount of depth in that position. And obviously there's a couple in our club who can play fullback that are sitting there in plain sight that aren't getting to go there, but would love an opportunity. But we've just got to trust the club. Plus you've got Crichton could go back there. I know people disagree, and I disagree with myself, to be honest. But if he's on that sort of money, it's hard to have your salary cap set properly, But then occasionally you get a player like a Mal Meninga and you just got to pay him big money and have him in your side. But Canberra were brought in the cap by $1.5 million in 1990-91. Got caught for it and nothing happened to him. Anyway, just to bring up an old thing that was hypocritical from when we got done, only a decade later. But yes, that's it, Scotty, Brees. What else did we talk about? Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see our side around Origin. Get there and watch those New South Wales Cup games. Watch the highlights if you can't. Subscribe to Bar TV if you're down at the games, or can go on a Saturday if you're in the area. If they're playing somewhere else, go and support them. Get to know the guys. I'm sure they'll sign signatures and stuff. And give them all the support you can, because I wish I could. All right, team. It's been wonderful to have you there. Thanks to everyone who's participated. It's been a great night. Thanks to everyone who's joined. Make sure you like and subscribe. Join if you want. And I don't think there'll be another preview before the game, but if I hear any news or have any predictions, I'll put something through quickly. But or if I've got any thoughts before the game, if there's anything I'm worried about, I'll jump on and say something. But till Friday, I think we will see. Before we go, Mike says Paps can have a chance of Origin. Yeah, they look similar. They do. Both nuggety little tough bastards. Yeah, well, Paps. Wonder if he still wants to leave the Storm after his 1-year extension. The former player used to love the Bulldogs. That would be good. Great chat as usual. Looking forward to Friday. Banner is ready for the kennel. Make sure we all come along and bring your family and friends. Get down to the kennel, everyone. Go hard. Thanks, Scotty. Probably not. We did more of the preview tonight, buddy. But I might do it. Might do a little revised version. Cheers, everyone. Got to go. Thanks, Lucas. Thank you to everyone. Have a great night. And go those Dogs.